carbohydrates are the most immediate source of energy from our body, and it comes from food like bread. And glucose is sugar that fuels the brain and is converted into glycogen for short-term storage, where it's kept in the liver and skeletal muscles. And the process of breaking it down from glucose into glycogen is called glycogenesis, which is promoted by insulin that's released from the pancreas. So adipose tissue or fat tissue stores glucose for long-term storage, and fat can be converted into glucose in serious food deprivation situations, and a secondary form of fuel called ketones. So glucose transporters regulate the import of glucose molecules and bring molecules from outside the cell into the cell. And release of insulin is stimulated by sensory stimuli from food called cephalic phase. Digestive phase regulates insulin through taste receptors, and the absorptive phase liver cells called glucodetectors detect glucose entering the signal, and the pancreas to release insulin. Liver communicates to the pancreas through the nervous system, and information from glucodetectors enters via the vagus nerve to the nucleus of the solitary tract and then is relayed to the hypothalamus. So diabetes type 1 and type 2 are diabetes mellitus, and they're caused from a lack of insulin. So type 1 is where the pancreas stops producing insulin, and type 2 is usually adult onset diabetes and is caused by reduced sensitivity to insulin and can cause obesity, which can lead to other health problems. So low levels of insulin cause the feeling of hunger, and high levels of insulin cause hypoglycemia, where glucose goes out of circulation into storage because the body detects that it has too much. So hypothalamus is important in regulation of metabolism, food intake, and body weight. Lesions in the ventral medial hypothalamus cause animals to eat a lot, which is called hyperphagia. So they thought that the VMH was a satiety center. Lesions of the lateral hypothalamus cause aphasia and weight loss, so they thought that the LH was a hunger center. Later research then just showed that these areas are not solely responsible for this balance of hunger. So our acute nucleus is a specialized appetite controller that is governed by circulating hormones. So leptin is a peptide that's released by fat cells, and the brain monitors leptin levels that reports underestimation of body weight, which leads usually to overeating. Ghrelin is another peptide released by endocrine cells of the stomach and affects the growth hormone secretion and appetite stimulation that rises after fasting and drops after eating. So obese people have lower levels of ghrelin, but their circulating levels do not drop after they eat, so they have a constant feeling of hunger. So PYY336 is another one where low levels in the blood prior to eating and rises rapidly after ingestion of food. So the PMOC neurons are satiety neurons that inhibit appetite and increase metabolism. So they're hunger suppressors. And MPY neurons are hunger neurons and inhibit POMC neurons, so they increase the feeling of hunger. And through these systems, the body modulates food intake. Leptin conveys information about body reserves, and high levels of leptin activate the POMC neurons and inhibit MPY neurons to decrease hunger. Ghrelin and PPY36 provide more hour-to-hour information about hunger that come from the gut and the stomach. Orexigenic neurons inhibit appetite and food intake, and the opposite would be anorexia neurons of the PVN, which decrease appetite and food intake. So the PMC neurons are the acute terminates in the PVN release alpha melanocyte stimulating hormones, and MC4Rs cause a net decrease in feeding. Appetite suppressants and stimulation spreads across the PVN to the LH. Orexin helps control feeding, and appetite signals in the hypothalamus converge on the nucleus of the solitary tract in the brainstem. So endocannabinoid system, which is stimulated by marijuana, has potent influence on hunger, and it stimulates the PMC neurons to increase hunger when usually they act as inhibitors.